Okay. We are live streaming. It has been a minute actually since I've made a proper video. So I had Thanksgiving and all the different stuff. I had family come in, and then also I got my laptop worked on. So it actually took a lot longer. It was supposed to be like 3 to 5 days, but I think because of Thanksgiving, it wound up being like 7 or 8 days. So basically, all I've done so far is I just did a thank you video for Thanksgiving, which I recorded on my phone and edited on my phone. So it wasn't the best video. And it's been almost 2 weeks since I've done a proper live stream. Now, I did change up my setup here and kind of trying to up my game. I'm still working on the setup. Let me know. They actually had to wipe my computer. So let me know, is my audio coming through clear if you are watching? So the way this generally works out is we will do question and answer. I'll kind of wait for people to kind of start, hopefully, assuming that people will start coming in if they haven't all abandoned me now that I haven't been very active over the last 2 weeks. But we will kind of do some question and answer stuff as we go along. I do have a few main topics that I will go over. I'll take 3 to 5 minutes to go over the topic. Then we'll go back to the comments and just take some input from that if there is people that are leaving comments. If you are here and you're watching, be sure to give this thing a thumbs up so that we can get this out to more people. As more thumbs up come in, we get more and more interaction, and it makes it a good thing. I think it's kind of funny because we do have a big news week. This is a brand new setup, so this I don't know what to do with my hands. We do have a big news week that happened over the last 2 weeks, which is completely counter, I guess, intuitive, or I wouldn't say necessarily counterintuitive, but I guess it's against the historical rumor mill and all the different stuff that usually comes out. There's usually no cameras that come out in November, much less camera rumors that are coming out. We had a huge rumor about a new Canon EOS R5 Mark II. I will go over the rumored specs and give my opinion on if I even believe them. I'm also going to touch on the fact that I did just pick up the Canon EOS R5C, and I have basically a couple days that I could return it if I wanted to, if I do buy into these rumors being true about the R5 Mark II. But I'm going to go over some of the reasons why I got the R5C in the first place, and then I will be able to give a better answer to why I am or am not going to turn it in. So we do have some people here. Let me know how my audio is doing if you're in the chat. If you're watching, be sure to give this thing a thumbs up. We will get this out to more people. I'm going to kind of just ramble here for a second while people hopefully will start to flood in. Let me go ahead and go to the comments section and see. Ooh, nice. We got some more people. Edward Scott, appreciate you being here, buddy. He says, I am digging the setup, looking good. Appreciate you. Yeah, I've been working pretty hard on it. I'm thinking I'm going to move this directly here, but I kind of like the background now, so I may or may not. He says the audio is perfect. Great. So I still am using this USB mic. I was thinking about using my Scarlett and doing an XLR setup, so that might bring things to the next level. But this is so convenient having a USB mic that I don't know if I want to do that. I will also go over a few of the things that I picked up over the holiday with some sales that were going on. And if you're here and you were able to get something on sale or you had a big win, I want to know about what gear you're getting. That's one of my favorite parts about cameras. Honestly, I think I get more excited about the new gear and just going over what specs and technology is going into things than the fact that I actually go out and use it more. So it's kind of a good thing and kind of a bad thing because I go over the rumors. I do use it, of course, but I do find myself just dreaming about cameras more than using cameras. So yeah. I appreciate that, Edward. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad you're liking the new setup. I kind of do like this background here now, so I don't know if I want to change it. I also got this, and I will go over a few of the other things. This is the loop deck. I got it a couple days ago. I worked with it last night. It seemed to be working with Ecamm, and it's just not doing that. But I think that will be upgrading things. The reason I got this is because when I am editing, there's certain websites like Epidemic Sound and a few others that are like music websites that I can just easily click and go to. I want to use it for editing and just some quick functions that way. But the main purpose is to use it because I do have the Canon R5C, assuming that I keep it, and I want to be able to just switch easily from the scenes and kind of use this as a switcher, which you're supposed to be able to do. But it stopped working literally a couple hours before my setup. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in to let's go ahead and jump into the first main topic. Do we want to talk about the Canon R5C? Do we want to just run into this full steam ahead? All right, let's do it. I know this is the main topic, the main event, but yeah, let's go for it. Okay, so we just had a big leak about the Canon EOS R5 Mark II. This is coming from Canon Rumors. This is a CR2, which means it's not necessarily the highest end. It's not a CR3. They don't consider this a guarantee, but they do see this coming from a reliable source. This is a pretty incredible spec leak, and it honestly kind of sounds a little odd and a little too good to be true. So I'm going to go over the specs and also go over when they expect this thing to come out. So let's go for this. So right here, we are on Canon Rumors. Like I said, this is a CR2, and it's saying that this is coming uh, Q2 of 2023. So Q2 of 2023, it starts somewhere around April, I believe. And then it goes up until about the end of June. So that would be Q2. I know it's kind of weird the way that the businesses kind of set things up a little different. Sometimes they're all um, slightly different, but generally speaking, they kind of have that general setup. They do go over this thing, and it's funny because I actually did do a live stream with Simon, the Ordinary Filmmaker, and I was giving my case of why I thought that the R5 Mark II was also going to be coming, not maybe just not with necessarily the R6 Mark II, but somewhere in that very soon, sooner rather than later. He didn't think it was coming out, and then this came out right after because I mean it was crickets for a while. I had good reasons to believe that it may be coming out. I don't necessarily doubt the validity that it may be coming in Q2 of 2023, but I'm starting to doubt the validity of some of these specs. So let's go over them. Okay, they say that this will have a new 61 megapixel CMOS BSI sensor. This right here is kind of the first odd, and I would say red flag to me. I don't know why they would make this exactly the same megapixel count as the Sony A7 R5 and the A7 R4. I don't believe at all that this will be a Sony sensor. Canon usually makes all their sensors in-house. So I just find this particular spec a little odd, and I guess I'm taking that with a grain of salt. They say it will have dual digit X processors, which, if it does, it will be absolutely insanely powerful, assuming that they actually connect it properly and they're able to get the most out of both the processors. Even if they're not able to necessarily double the processing power, if they're just able to, I guess, get somewhere close to 1.5ing it or, adding an extra 75%, I think that would be incredible. They say it will have 30 frames per second electronic shutter with tracking, so no shock there. 12 frames per second mechanical shutter. So Jared Polin, he actually said that the 30 frames per second would possibly have some bad rolling shutter, considering that this is going to be such a high megapixel sensor, along with the fact that it's not a stack sensor, at least not according to this rumor. So he was basically saying that 12 frames per second is where it's going to stay. I wouldn't be shocked if that, or if the actual real settings of the new of actually the new R5 Mark II whenever it does come out. If this is true, I wouldn't be surprised if they bump that up to 15 frames per second mechanical. I believe that that's what they do with the Canon R6 Mark II. So it says it will have the same 8 stops of IBIS. One of the big issues that most people have had with the IBIS of the R5 is the fact that it has that weird wobbling that goes on the corners, especially if you're in a wide lens. So for people who are using this, and a lot of people are wanting to use this as like a, you know, I guess content creator type vlogging style camera, it just kind of was weird. It made a lot of people nauseous. So I do hope that they can at least fix that if this is the case and they are sticking with the same IBIS. Hopefully there's something in the software, or maybe they have some mechanical way that they can actually freeze the sensor so it doesn't do that. Okay, it says it will have new high resolution mode similar to Pixel Shift. Um, Similar to Pixel Shift shooting found on Sony/Fuji. Again, nothing shocking here. It says it will have a 2, 4, and 8 times digital teleconverter. I mean, essentially, this is just going to be cropping in on the sensor. Jared Polin also kind of made a joke about this, saying, "Why not just do this? Why not crop after the fact?" And I kind of get his argument, but to me, I personally like to try to get the best a best composition while I'm shooting. And sometimes if you're shooting just, say for example, I'm shooting at 50, and if I'm 8 timesing that, then that gives me, I'm going to do bad math. That gives me a 400 essentially millimeter, worth of reach. I mean, that's a far difference. So if I'm shooting at 50, I might not necessarily be on the subject that I want to be on. But if I can do a digital converter and jump up 8 times, then maybe I'm seeing that bird in the tree or whatever else I'm actually aiming at. So I think it's a good feature. I would put it in, and people can crop after the fact, or they can use it if they want. It's the same dual pixel CMOS autofocus 2, so the same one from the R3 and the R6 Mark II. Great stuff. Nothing big or groundbreaking there. This right here is a bit odd. Okay, so this changed, I think, possibly, maybe. It says internal 8K at 60 frames per second video recording, 8K raw video specs to be confirmed. Okay, so it's not necessarily saying that it's raw. This is something that I think is odd, and I'm going to go over the next part that I also think is a bit odd. This is also supposed to be oversampled from 61 megapixels, which is like 9K or something nuts like that. It says 4K 60 or up to 120 video, all by oversampling. So that is also a big downside of the Canon R5, is that the downsampling, at least at 120, it's kind of a pixel bending, and even at 4K 60. So 4K 30 is the overarching thing. So this is big if this is true, but I do have my doubts. Full frame 240 video recording, focus breathing correction for video. Okay, great. I did hear Simon did an interview with the main guy of Canon Rumors, who actually just sold it, but as a consultant. He was saying that this is one of the things that kind of felt like it gave him some validity, saying, why would you add focus breathing correction for video? Like, that's an obscure spec. But if I'm not mistaken, that is also the same spec that is in the Canon EOS R6 Mark II. So that's not necessarily super obscure. I mean, you would add it because it makes sense if it was in the R6 Mark II. But maybe you can correct that, but I'm pretty sure that's in the R6 Mark II. So anyways, that doesn't give any validity in my mind. It says new overheating protection designed to similar to the R6 Mark II, at least 40 minutes for 8K video and over 60 minutes for 4K video. Dual CF Express Type B cards, standard HDMI port, big win if that's true. Dual USB Type C port, odd but really cool. 9.44 million EVF. New design, very angle LCD optimized for video shooting. Launch time 2023 Q2. Okay, so looking at those specs, let me quickly go over and kind of give you my reasons why this doesn't 100%, I guess, smell properly for me. I think that there's some oddities here. First was the sensor, like I mentioned before. It's kind of odd that they're saying this is 61 megapixels, which is the same as the Sony A7R5. Um, I don't know. It's a little bit A7, yes, A7R5. There's too many letters and numbers and all these things. The other thing that's a bit odd is 9.44 million dot LCD or EVF rather. Again, that's kind of odd because that's basically just copying Sony verbatim, and I don't think they're going to be using Sony technology. So I just wouldn't expect it to have that exact spec. It just kind of seems like I don't know if wishful thinking or basically just saying, "Hey, we're going to top you," and that's kind of what somebody is shipping off here. Everything else looks fairly interesting, but I will say if this is all being oversampled, like 8K 60 and 4K 120 even being oversampled. One of the big issues that I see with this, besides the heat issue, um, is battery life. So I have the Canon EOS R5 C, and the battery life is horrendous. The battery that they have on there, 8K doesn't even function properly with this thing. So I don't 8K 60 rather doesn't function properly. It does oversample from 4K 60, but not 120. I think that they probably could do it from 120, possibly. That being said, the battery life is just so terrible. I don't understand how they're going to change that up without changing the battery in a significant way. That's a bit odd. Also, the dual CF Express Type B slots, that would also be great and smart in my mind. But that makes me think that the body design may be super different. And I'm not sure, based upon what we saw from the R6 Mark II, which was a very, I guess, iterative update. I hope I'm saying that properly, but it wasn't nothing revolutionary. It was just an evolution. It was great because the R6 was also great. It did a lot of great things with the Mark II, but it was just basically going down the list and not necessarily making anything really big update. And considering this would be a 2.5 year update, I don't necessarily see them doing all these crazy things in R5. The other big issue that I see is that if you do this with the R5 Mark II, then where does that leave the R1, especially on the video specs? Of course, we could say that a stacked sensor would be better and it could be a lot faster if it's the R1, but this seems like it would be similar specs to what an R1 would be rather than what an R5 Mark II would be. I don't know. This sounds great, but a few things just make me feel odd about it. I would feel better if I know that they're going to be bringing out maybe a higher capacity battery that is in the same form factor, because I just don't see them completely changing the form factor of it and maybe making it so much bigger that they would need a whole new battery. I think a lot of people would be a little bit upset by that, me included, considering how bad the battery life is on the R5C. It does also make sense for these specs to come in to the R1 because it would have that larger battery size. So that's enough of my rambling. What do you think about these specs? Drop in the comment section below and let me know. All right, let's go back to the comments and let's see if they've built up here. All right. Okay, let's go back here. Robert M says, I do not believe the dual Digic X processor at all. So I'm kind of with you on that, Robert. It does seem a bit odd. I do think that it kind of can make sense because of a cost perspective if you're really just diving in and basically buying those even more in bulk. But they would have to have a really good I guess I don't know the proper word, but basically a fuser that's going to allow them to get both. Chiplet designs are always usually you lose quite a bit. Apple is doing it fairly well with their new systems, but they have a proprietary way of fusing the chips, and even those aren't necessarily one to one. Okay. Marty McFly says, if these are the specs for the Mark II, I can't imagine what the R1 specs would be. And do you think the R1 picture would be comparable to a red camera? Both use the RF mount, but I hate the red autofocus. Honestly, that's almost impossible to say. I, on the surface, I would say it's probably not going to be as good as a red camera. A red raw just seems to be on a different level as far as the way that they process things. I'm not going to say none of the red cameras, but I would assume that like a red Raptor or the higher end red cameras or the newer red cameras will probably have a better overall image. But I mean, I don't necessarily have any facts to base that upon. Just I'm basing that upon history from what I've seen of at least the raw. And that's at least, of course, it's opinionated and it's not necessarily factual by any means. I do think it's going to be comparable. I'm not going to say it's as good, but I think it'd be comparable. But the R1 is a photo centric camera first, or at least, and generally it's supposed to be. I don't see it competing 100% with a cinema camera. I may be wrong. Um, but yeah, the autofocus will be a million times better. Joseph Glenn said, but will the one button be able to record in C-Log 3 with all speeds? But will the one button record be able to record in C-Log 3 all speeds? I, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that. Uh, are you talking about the S and Q mode on the C R5C? I'm not exactly sure. I would assume that it would have C-Log 3 in all speeds. I think the Canon R5C and also the R5 they all have C-Log 3, if I'm not mistaken. So interesting. I don't know. Um, Robert said it would be 9.6K raw or something like that. I'm sure. I'm too lazy to calculate it exactly. Yeah, it would be nuts. To me, this it's just a little bit sounding wishful thinking. I know a lot of people are saying that about the. A lot of people are saying that a lot of people didn't believe the R5 specs when it was originally announced, and I do get that, and I guess there is the possibility that they've just continue to iterate, and this is where they're at. But I guess I just don't see the need for 8K at this level or 4K 120 at that level of oversampling. Um, I don't know. It doesn't necessarily seem impossible, but it doesn't. Based upon the R6, like the R6 Mark II did just enough to be an upgrade. I don't know why the R5 Mark II would be that much more of an update. Like, there's really no other camera that's competing with it um, right now. I don't see a Sony A7S4 or whatever they're going to do if it's going to be FX3 Mark II. I don't know if it's even going to have 8K in it. It's possible if they decide to use some new technology and not focus too much on the low light. But I guess I just don't see the point of them going that high. And the battery is the biggest thing. I don't understand how they're going to get enough power draw to use 8K 60 properly because the R5C can't do it unless they actually have a new battery coming out. If they do, I hope that it works with the R5C and it's not actually a larger battery. It would be hard to iterate too much with that size in my mind. So yeah. Um, Edward said, at this point, I don't believe the standard HDMI port prediction anymore. I'm pretty sure that's an inside joke to the engineers at Canon. Um, what I believe it is, and I'm not sure, I bet Robert can kind of give me a little bit of more insight because he's, I think, more technologically inclined than I am. I think that the reason, and I'm not sure, but I think that the reason that at least the R5, even the R5C, which has no business being macro HDMI and calling itself a cinema camera in any way, that doesn't make sense at all. And the R6, I think they're all using the same, maybe it's like a motherboard, I'm assuming. And sometimes a motherboard has a certain bus that it can use. I know that it worked that way, and I could be off, but I know, for example, like the M1 Max, not the M1 Max, but the M1 Mac. Okay, the original first chip. It only had enough for like a Thunderbolt 2 on 2 different slots, and it came out the exact same side. So the way it worked is you could only have 2 ports. That was the way the chip was actually designed. So they weren't able to change that no matter which configuration that they put it in. It wasn't until they had a different actual chip that had a different buses, I believe is the proper term, that they were able to add different stuff. So I'm wondering if that is the reason, considering it's basically the same chassis, if they're using the same motherboard, and that is the reason we have the same bus and they're not actually able to have room or have the ability on that particular like motherboard or bus to be able to add a full-size HDMI port. And that would also explain why the R3 does have a full size, because they could use the same processor but a different bus because it's a larger camera. Um, so it doesn't necessarily it doesn't surprise me if it is a full size HDMI port, but it also wouldn't surprise me if it's not. Um, okay. Robert M said it sounds like a fairy tale written by Walt Disney and directed by Steven Spielberg. Oh my God, we got sexual stuff in here. I don't like this. How can I ban people? I don't know how to do this live. Huh. Yeah, it does. It does sound like a fairy tale here. Um, I mean, the only reason that I'm kind of pausing is the fact that they did say a lot of people said this about the R5. So there is that. But to me, where's this leaving the R1? I mean, doesn't make much sense. Okay, I'm getting this crazy spam here. How do I block somebody on this? I've never had a thing to have to block anybody live. Can I block people live? If anybody knows how to do that on Ecamm, I don't want to mess anything up, but I'm getting people that are spamming things that they shouldn't be spamming. Let's just say that. I'm not exactly sure. I don't want to mess things up here. Yeah, I don't want to mess things up, but I don't know how to ban people. Never had this issue. I know it's possible. I just don't know how. Huh. Well, about that. Comments, actions. Okay. I don't know. I wish I could take that off. All right. Robert M says the PCBs that the Canon uses only use micro HDMI. Canon needs to update it to HDMI 2.1A. Hopefully, they will upgrade to the full size HDMI at the same time. It would complicate the R50 design, though. Okay, so I think Robert is kind of confirming that I am at least on the right track with that assumption. So that is interesting. Hey, we do have more people watching than that has hit the like button. So if you could hit that like button, it gets this out to more people. We can have a more engaging conversation. I am caught up on the chats here, though. So if we want, we can go over to the next story, which is basically the Canon lineup, and it can kind of it'll kind of go along with this. Let me know how everybody's liking this format, where I kind of basically go over a news story, and then I go to the chats and let them build up. It's not quite as fast of an interaction, and we can go at the end, and I'll be like, question answer right away. But I do feel like it allows this thing to flow a little bit better, and it also will allow me, hopefully, to be able to start clipping these things out and giving more and more content throughout the week. That is at least the goal that I'm trying to really. I just tried a new way. So if you like that, if that's okay with you guys, just let me know. This Ecamm imaging thing is acting weird. When I got the computer service, they wiped my computer, so I had to go in and re-download and set everything up. So yeah, that happened. If you're here and hadn't hit the like button, do so please. That will very much help out. Let's go ahead and go to the next story here, which is based upon the new, and this is a CR3, so we will go over that. Okay, so we have a CR3 coming from Canon rumors, and a CR3 basically means that they believe this to be fact, and this is basically letting you know kind of what the roadmap looks like. The way they word this is I only believe that a few of the actual stuff is a CR3, and I believe that some of it is speculation. But we will go through this article from Canon Rumors, and I'll give you my opinion on what I think some of this means. When we get to the Canon R5 Mark II, there's a little bit of language here that I think gives them some wiggle room. So I'm not necessarily believing that that means that this is confirmed, that this is going to be, the 100% lineup. But let's go ahead and go over what Canon Rumors is saying is their lineup coming up. Okay, said it feels like the old days again as numerous camera rumors continue to flow in. It's becoming a bit more challenging to figure out which camera fits which rumor segment, but we will do our best. So again, it's kind of given wiggle room to, even though this is a CR3, I think a few things are CR3s here, but not everything's been interpreted. Let's just say that. The latest bit of information we can confirm is a new camera body coming that will fit between the Canon EOS R7 and the Canon R10 in the lineup from a price point. So basically, this right here is saying what he can confirm is that this is the new camera that's coming out. So he goes on to give a further, I guess, update and confirm some stuff. Here's a rundown of the current rumored EOS R bodies coming in the next 12 months. So that being said, the main thing is this is what is the CR3 from my understanding. I also believe that there was an R50 CR3 that they had back in the past, but we will go over that as well. This is the R8 or EOS R9. This camera will be slotted between the R7 and the R10 and will likely be an APS-C camera. We don't have any confirmed speculations at this time. This is where I would I guess push back because I don't really see much of a possibility. I'm not necessarily the possibility they can make it work, I guess. But I don't see the benefits of having a camera between the R7 and R10 that is also APS-C. I can see having a lower end APS-C camera or maybe even higher end, but I don't think they're going to do that either. But to me, an R8 or an R9, it makes more sense to me to be like a replacement, at least in spirit, to what a Canon EOS R would be, or a Canon EOS RP. That makes the most sense to me. If you had an R8, I think make it like an EOS R. So basically a little bit below the R6 Mark II, or in actuality, probably would make more sense to have an R9, which would be like an RP replacement. So it would be essentially similar specs to what the R10 is, but full frame. That makes more sense to me. Moving on, the R50, this will be slot below the R10 and will likely be similar style to the ESM lineup. Whether it will have a built-in EVF remains to be learned. This is another camera that is kind of an odd one here, based upon, I guess, more recent rumors here. We'll go over that. The R5S, the long rumored high megapixel camera, is still being mentioned. That was a CR3 a long time ago. We've been hearing about this thing for, I think, within 6 months of the R5 coming out. We've been hearing about this. We heard about this well before the R5C. So I don't know that I think this camera is probably coming, but this kind of camera right here makes it a little confusing. The R5 Mark II, we recently reported on this camera, and according to the latest rumor, it will be coming in Q2 of 2023. So we just went over the specs on this, but they're saying that this will have a 61 megapixel sensor. So to me, this is already a high-end megapixel sensor. So where does that fit in here? Is this going to be an 80 plus megapixel sensor or a 100 megapixel sensor? Honestly, the specs of this camera right here, the R5 Mark II that is being rumored, it kind of sounds like it could be a mixture of an R5S. Like maybe they're getting some of the specs of the R5S rumored, and maybe they're getting some of the specs of the R1, and they're kind of maybe messing around with both of those, and they just assume it that this is going to be in the R5 Mark II. Still think it could be coming in Q2, but I'm not sure that any of the reported specs make much sense. Okay, they're also saying an R7C, a cinema version of the EOS R7, has been planned, but we're now getting some conflicting information that the product has been scrapped. We hope to hear more on the R7C one way or the other in the near future. Man, I don't know, my stuff is messing up here. Okay, this right here kind of makes sense, but it is a little disheartening to me. They're saying that the R7C is scrapped. It makes sense from the perspective that I don't know that the R5C has done as well as they hoped it would. I think the R5C had a whole lot of potential and that they threw the kitchen sink at it, but I definitely think it needed some firmware updates. Maybe I think it's possible that they were expecting that they had some leaked 8K cinema cameras that were supposed to be coming out this year that I believe got pushed to next year. So I think that maybe they were thinking that the newer software that they were going to put in it, their new cinema cameras was also going to come to the R5C. We probably gave it some better battery life in cinema mode, as well as maybe updated some of the autofocus. If they would have done that, it would have made a lot more sense. But as it sits, the R5C kind of feels like it's been abandoned, and it's about a year old at this point, and they haven't done any major updates that really address any of the concerns, especially battery life, which was atrocious. Atrocious. So, atrocious? I think that's the right word. So, anyways, this one kind of makes sense to me. So, this is what Canon Rumors is saying is their big lineup coming here. The only CR3 portion, it sounds like, is that one camera. The rest is like CR2 and speculation from what I've seen. But drop in the comment section below and let me know, what do you think about this Canon 2023 or the next 12 months lineup? Do you think this makes sense? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. All right, so let's go over here to the comments. Does it make sense kind of how I'm doing this, where I'm kind of having to atrocious? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm messing up. Sorry. Does it make sense the way I'm doing it? Is it too odd that I'm kind of trying to separate it out? I think another way I can do it is if I do it that way, then like I can record like a little side back where I can basically say like, hey, like and subscribe and give me your thoughts type thing, like record that individually, and I can put that on all the different clips. Um, I just don't want to be like, I don't want to, I guess, upset everybody here, because I want the live stream to be beneficial to the channel, but I also want it to be a community building thing. So I don't want people to feel like they're not being engaged with. Okay, Edward says the format is not odd; it makes sense. Okay, I appreciate it, Edward, for giving me that insight. I'm glad you like that, or I'm glad that it's clarified here, or at least you don't see it. Other people maybe give me their opinion as well, would be appreciated. But Edward, I'm glad you like it. Okay. Canon, Robert says Canon definitely left room for two cameras between the R7 and R10, but I'm not sure what they can squeeze in there. I think they left room, especially with the naming convention. I just don't think that they left much room in the whoops, APS-C market. So I don't know. That's what I mean by they didn't leave much room. I think they left room in the naming convention. I think they left room for the marketing, but I don't necessarily see what would be the specs between the R10 and the R7. It just seems a little odd. That's why to me it makes sense more for it to be a full frame camera. Yeah. Robert says I think the R50 would have an AVF and the R100 will not, just like the M50 and the M100. Yeah, that makes sense to me too. Also, I think I'm kind of looking away. I need to figure out how this thing works. Also, think that the M50, or I guess what are they calling it? The R50. I feel like Canon is really big on trying to convert people over to being more professional photographers, or at least getting into photography. And I do think an EVF is a big part of that experience. And because like even if you look at like um the cinema Canon EOS R5 it has the same EVF. I think if they wanted to get rid of the EVF, they would have done it in something like that and kind of went the Canon or the Sony FX3 way, but they they didn't do that. So to me, I think that they should put an EVF in pretty much all their cameras to a degree. Obviously, like you said, the M50 or the M100 didn't have one, so the R100 probably wouldn't, yeah, assuming that that's going to be a camera. But I think the more you give an EVF and give the experience of a camera, you, I guess, bring life further to the camera industry, and you're kind of, I don't know what the proper term is, but you're kind of bringing people into the fold that will hopefully upgrade in the future. And I think a big part of that is giving them an EVF. So yeah, that's my thought process. Um, Robert M says an R7C based on the current R7 does not make much sense either. The rolling shutter is too slow to be a Canon cinema camera. Atrocious. Yeah, my my pronunciation of that word is also atrocious. Um yeah, so Edward again said the format does not is not odd, so I appreciate that. I do want to go over a little bit, and we don't necessarily have to make this a segment because I wasn't able to find as much of the concrete evidence as I would have liked. It was a little odd, but it is in the title, so I do want to go over it. But I'm not going to make it like a main topic here, even though I should, I guess. But I'm going to go quickly over to says the increase in mirrorless cameras growing in popularity. So I think this is good thing. Basically, it's saying that the market has bottomed out, and that it's actually increased 9% more than 2021, and 34% in volume or value terms. So basically, I think that means that it's just more expensive. So yeah, um, that is a good thing, though. It means that the industry, maybe it's bottomed out, maybe it's going to even continue to grow. Mirrorless products comprised nearly 50% of all camera sales in terms of units. DSLR compact cameras making up the other 50%. So DSLRs are still around, that's for sure. And it makes sense a little bit because when I go into I don't want to say basic stores, but when I go into a store that has, let's just say it's not a dedicated electronic store, so I go into like Walmart or Target or something like that, they don't really sell many mirrorless like higher end cameras. They're all about the DSLRs, the cheaper ones. You can go to a Best Buy usually, or of course, a camera shop and find like DSLR or higher end mirrorless. But for most consumer cameras, you're not even getting the option to buy mirrorless, especially when it comes to like Canon, and Canon's the biggest camera company in the world. So I don't know. It makes sense to me that they're still selling like hotcakes. I think when we get more APS-C lenses and also cheaper, like mirrorless cameras, like what Canon looks like they're trying to do, I think that's when you'll start seeing the DSLR cameras start to fade out even more than they have. Research from the CPA demonstrates that January to June 22 compact camera shipments were valued at 28 billion yen, approximately 240 million pounds. Okay. Where's the US in that? I guess. Okay. Anyways, must be a, yeah. Anyways, I'm not sure what the US value would be of this. But I guess the biggest overall thing, here it goes. Supported by strong sales of interchangeable lenses, we posted double digit growth in both sales and profit, and our operating ratio increased 16.1%. So that's what Canon is saying. It sounds like a cameraman. It sounds like a mixture of a lot of things. So they're saying that it's bottom out. Obviously, cameras are getting more expensive, and I think that they're just getting better margins. So I think that that's kind of The way Canon and probably Sony and Nikon, they're all going to have to work like that, where they, maybe get a little bit more expensive. You know, hopefully they won't downgrade any of the quality, but they're going to get more per camera. And maybe the growth kind of, has bottomed out. Maybe it'll go back up a little bit. And that's how they're going to survive. And I'm completely cool with that because the camera industry was, in a free fall. And so it makes me excited because I want cameras to just stay around, not just for the channel, just because I also just love cameras. So yeah, all right, let me go back here to the comments here. Does anybody have any comments on this particular story, or do y'all not care? If you're watching and you have not hit that like button, hit that like button. It gets this out to more people, and it's greatly appreciated. Any more comments? No one commenting on. No one cares much about the state and health of the camera industry. That's okay. If you don't, you don't. Okay, well, one thing else that I'll do that's not necessarily main topic worthy, but it's also enjoyable, is I'm going to go just quickly and run through like Sony Alpha rumors. I'm going to refresh these. I'm going to refresh Canon rumors, even though I just checked it not long ago. Nikon rumors, and sometimes I get lucky, like with the Nikon Z8, even though it it didn't ever come out, but it's a highly desired camera and a lot of rumors based upon that. One time I refreshed Nikon rumors and there was like an updated spec thing right there, and I got lucky and was able to get to that first. Sometimes I get lucky, and sometimes we get to go over some very new news, which is big. Okay, so Robert says my biggest problem is that Canon discontinued so many EVF lenses without RF replacements. Yeah, that's true. I guess my only pushback would be that there is used market at this point. Um, I'm not saying that that's 100% ideal, but there's just been so many EF lenses made over the last, 25 years or so. I think, was it 1993? So almost 30 years. I can't remember exactly when the EF mount was introduced. I think it was in the 90s. I'm pretty positive it was in the 90s. So there's had to been millions of lenses produced at this point. So there's probably a very healthy market on the used market. I'm not saying it's ideal, but maybe that's what Canon is thinking. I think they have to kind of push their R&D into one, um, I guess, area, and especially with all the supply chain issues, it was probably hard enough securing what they could secure for their newer lenses. I do agree though that there's a lot of holes in the RF mount. So yeah, that's a big issue. Also, the bigger issue would be the RF mount or the APS-C mount RF. So the RF-S lenses are abysmal. So abysmal, I'm using that word right? Or atrocious, we can use that one as well. Um, but yeah, that selection is terrible. All right, so let me quickly go over to some of these uh, newer and just see like we may or may not get lucky here, but it'll be fun if we do. And then I'll go over one more thing, and we can just kind of open this up. And it's already, just send as many comments as you can if you want to talk. I enjoy talking to everybody, but I've went over most of the main topics. But I do want to kind of talk about a few of the things that I got. I talked about the loop deck. I'm going to talk about some of the other things I got on sale, and drop in the comments and let us everybody know, what you were able to get on sale, because maybe somebody else is looking for that. If you found a really good sale at B&H, because a lot of the Black Friday or was it Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals, they're still going. So yeah, that's usually generally happening still. All right, so let me go back here. Go back to Canon rumors, refresh. So Tamron has announced lens utility mobile. Okay, that's nothing big here. R6 Mark II is in stock at B&H Photo. That's interesting to me. That means that either it's not selling as well, or they just have finally got the supply chains figured out. Either way, cool. Speaking of sales, save big on refurbished gear at the Canon USA store for Cyber Monday. Um, RP body $5.99, regularly $99. Um, so interesting right here. That's pretty big. An ESR. I sold my ESR for more than that on eBay, and mine was used and not refurbished from Canon. So yeah, that's some pretty nice deals. It says Cyber Monday, which probably was posted on Cyber Monday. Old story, but I think a lot of things are still going. So there is that. All right, let's move on to Sony Alpha rumors and see if we get lucky over here. Some new things that probably color shift you like crazy. I was gonna get the Nisi True Color like magnet system. It was kind of odd because the older ones were getting great reviews and saying that there was barely any color shift. But then there was a newer review because they added like a new kit to it and allowed you to do other stuff. And apparently the quality control went down, or at least according to this one reviewer. And he was like, "Don't buy this as of right now." So I just took his word for it because I didn't want to spend all that money and not get what I was hoping for. But if you have any, I haven't watched this, so maybe it's good. Yeah. The R5. So DP Review is saying the A7 R5 is the best camera, and the 16-35 G Master 2 the best lens of the year. What? Wait. When is the 16-35 G Master 2? When did that come out? No. So, okay, this is a typo. The winner of best lens is the 24-70 G Master 2. Yeah, because there is not a 16-35 GM2. I would know about that because I would probably buy that lens. Best video camera winner XH2S. Runner up is the FX30. Okay, we'll give them that. I like the XH5 or H2S. I dig Fuji. I can't help it. Best photo camera, the R7, the A7 R5. I don't think that's. I mean, it really depends on what you're want. I mean, of course, it's a dedicated camera for photos. I'm surprised that the R6 Mark II isn't on here though. I can't remember what DP review what they said about the R6 Mark II in their review of it or their initial impressions of it. But yeah, worst lens. Yeah, we don't have to go over that. Worst video camera, 1000% agree. The Sony ZV-1F. That was the biggest disappointment of my life. Not of my life, but I was like doing all kinds of big stuff saying that there was some, oh, it's going to be the ZV-1 Mark II or a higher end ZV camera, and somehow they went even lower. It was terrible. Still running $600 off Sony cameras from B&H and Amazon, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, these deals are still going on if you're interested. Let's quickly go over to Nikon rumors. Yeah, just lenses here. Okay, I don't really care. Top 10 Nikon rumors post for November. Okay, I don't think we don't need to go over all this. Let's quickly go over to Fuji. Okay, so Fujifilm is basically just talking about that same similar stuff. I don't see anything very interesting here. I mean, and we can't really expect much camera news at this point. It is December, so it's usually slow. It's usually slow last week during Thanksgiving. I got my computer fixed, and then there was a huge news week. So yeah, so that's the biggest things right there. Let me go back to the chat. Let's just open this up to the open talk, and we'll go from there. Okay. Robert says, "What do you think of DP Review cameras of the year?" Okay, so yeah, that's what I was just looking. I didn't. It's funny because I have a video that I recorded a week ago giving my breakdown of top 5 cameras of the year. I haven't been able to get it edited yet because I just got my computer back. So yeah. I don't think I didn't watch the whole video. I saw that it was on there. I literally started it just to show that it was going to be in my watch later because I wanted to watch it, but I didn't get a chance to go over it yet. From what I saw of the winners right here, um, I don't know. I mean, it kind of makes sense to me. What are your thoughts on it? I guess is a bigger question, Robert. Da, da, da. So I'm gonna let some comments kind of go in here. I was saying before, one of the things I got is this loop deck. I think it will be cool once I get it to work. It was working last night, not working very much today. Also got, yeah, these are some big stuff here. I think I like it. So I got this Element Hub. It is a Thunderbolt 4 USB 4 Thunderbolt situation. So I'm going to be able to get quite a bit more ports using Thunderbolt. I got this. This was another holiday thing I got. The other big thing I got, and this was a really big, awesome deal that they had on these. I got a 16 terabyte hub, a SanDisk hub, which is slow hard drive, but everybody needs more storage. I got the Canon R5C with 8K and the 4K upsampled, all that jazz. So yeah. I also got another SSD of 4 terabyte, but that was gonna be that's a SSD and not a hard drive. So yeah, those were my big purchases. Drop in the comments. Give me your big purchases. Um, Robert says I don't think the R6 came out too late to make their. I think the R6 II came out too late to make their list. Do they have a weird cutoff like that? Because I didn't know that they had that weird cutoff. Yeah, personally, I don't know. Robert says too many great cameras came out. Yeah, my top 5 had to have definitely had to have um, Edward says way too many. Way too many came out. We all win. Um, yeah, that's true. I think this was a great year for cameras, and I mean, honestly, that may be the reason. Not a long. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but we had a good camera year and a lot of good releases, and maybe that's why the sales are up. They're innovating more. I have that top 5 list. The Fujifilm. I'll say I'm not going to give the order, but I will definitely say the XT. Sorry, the XH2S made it very high on the list, and the Canon R6 Mark II made it high on the. I think it was on the list. I don't know if it was that high. I mean, they're all the top 5, so they're all good in my mind. I forgot the FX3, um, which kind of makes sense because it's a cinema more camera, but I forgot to even add it to the list. It's just like you said, way too many great cameras came out to do that. I had to give a lot of honorable mentions to some cameras because it was hard to break it down to the top 5. Well, I have been going for right about an hour now. So I think I'm going to call it a night. I appreciate everybody. I appreciate everybody for tuning in live. I'm still working out the format. I'm changing things around. I'm hoping to constantly improve this thing and get this better and better and hopefully a more enjoyable experience. But I love talking cameras. I love being able to interact with you guys. And I'm more excited to build the channel this way because I can interact more. And I'm hoping that this is a successful way of doing things to go live and then clip some videos out because I enjoy this way of making videos even more so than just making regular videos because I actually get to interact. So yeah, I appreciate everybody that comes and joins me live. I hope you continue to come and join me live. Still trying to figure out which days work the best. Um, Sometimes I'm getting better results Tuesday night, and sometimes I'm getting better results on Saturday night. So I'm still kind of working out and seeing what's going to be the best. Thank you all for showing up. And if you haven't subscribed by chance, I think everybody here who's talking has subscribed. But if you're watching this after the fact, subscribe. Very much appreciate it. Helps out the channel. Like, do all the good stuff. Until next time, peace. I can never finish it and end it right on the piece. Oh, Edwards, quick thing. Edward said you might have sold me on the R5C. Yeah, it's good stuff. Oh, I forgot to go over that. I'm going to probably keep the R5C. I'm not going to just give it up because of the R5 Mark II or whatever it might be. The reason being is one of the reasons I got that is because I wanted to up my game into a cinema style, and I like the mirrorless, but I wanted to like learn that. So I'm probably going to keep it. It's still a great camera. You're going to need like an extra battery solution, but for what I want it for, it makes a lot of sense. I don't really need another camera. I want to go more into the cinema style. So yeah, I'm going to keep it. I did get tempted though when I saw those specs just to return it, but I'm also going to Vietnam again in 6 weeks. So that's not coming out for 6 weeks, and I want to get some 8K video when I'm in Vietnam. So yeah, there's that. Till next time, peace.